So, welcome to Uranus in Taurus. And as I'm doing this, I'm still eagerly waiting for the little bugger to get into Taurus because I'm getting a little curious now. What will this be? It will be in Taurus until 2026, until it enters Gemini and heralds a very interesting time period for humanity at large, because Uranus in Gemini period is known to bring in some particular geniuses, as we can see when we go a little bit back in time. But let's not run ahead. Let's stick with Uranus in Taurus for now. It will go into Uranus, in Taurus in May and stay there until November, and then pop back again. What was it? March, April 2019. So we are preparing for yet another big shift. And Taurus and Uranus, Uranus is the planet of higher mind, and Taurus is the sign of earth, of territory, of land, of property, of resources, money, values, everything that makes your life sustainable on a material level. So it will be interesting when the planet of the higher mind enters these realms. Now, my particular chosen field for this talk, this 30-minute talk, will be on Uranus and its capacity for individuation. Uranus, since it relates to the higher mind, often informs us about, we get these glimpses of insight that takes us to the next level. And once that bridge is crossed, it's hard to cross back into the past again, although that's what we frequently do. So Uranus is a trigger that pulls us into the future, but it's not an easy journey, of course not. I think we talk about change, but when change actually happens, we realize, it was a little bit more than I bargained for, and we start making excuses like, I don't have enough money to do this, I can't really fit it into my schedule right now. It's like there's never a good time for change, There's always something happening that is supposed to not happen, and when it happens, it was the bad time. And you just have to go with it still. And I know a lot of people, I work a lot with people who want to move away from their secure jobs, their steady incomes, their paychecks, because the job itself is boring and it's stagnant and it's not giving nothing. It doesn't have that quality of spirit which we all want in our lives. So when we try to get to that next level and create a business of our own, or reach for another type of work that we know intuitively would bring us more meaning, it poses certain challenges. And these are the challenges that I will go through today. Because resistance is futile. We cannot not change. That would be ridiculous to think. It is part of being alive, evolution, not just on a physical level, the evolution of the species, but also on a mental and spiritual and emotional level. We will always evolve. Uranus, when it hits your chart, wherever it hits your chart, and if it crosses something extremely important, you will definitely the curtains will be lifted, the veils will be lifted. It will be difficult to stay in denial. And there's this restlessness that comes as a result of that. Like once you see, you cannot stay with what is, because this is not it. It outlived its purpose. And we know that since 2012, 2015, when we had these high intensity squares between Pluto-Uranus, both of them implying change, both of them planets of great spiritual forces actually that moves humanity forward, a lot of people got to this point in their lives where they were like, I don't think I can do this anymore. But then, what can we do and how can we make that sustainable? Now, Uranus has since been in Aries, right? Continuously working on that individuating process, which is not quite over yet, as we see when Uranus will dip back again into Aries and finish off that process of who are you really? Who are you? Are you independent enough to be on your own 2 feet? Are you strong enough in your faith? Are you strong enough in your identity? Because that's basically what it's all about. Identity. Do you really, really know this? Until you really, really know something, you cannot really, really make changes, you see. There will be this insecurity that always makes you go into doubt again. It's the same with love. If you date somebody and it's like, yeah, I like him, but if there's too many buts in the love, love is without ambiguity. It's either or not. That's it. And that's the same with individuation processes. But until you find it, there's a certain need for isolation. A lot of people don't like that particular part of individuation because naturally, as Rogan, I saw this Joe Rogan show yesterday and he says, yeah, in some weird way we need each other. In some weird way we need each other because we're so annoying. Why do we need each other? And it was super funny, but he had that point that we need each other. But when we're in an individuating process, we need to be very particular with whom we need. Because you don't need the old schoolers, right? You need those who have been walking the path before you, who knows what it means to go and venture into the unknown, and who can see you and trust you and take chances with you because they've taken chances themselves. Now, that type of support comes only from people who are strong. So naturally, when we're in a process of finding ourselves, we would love to share. We get into this kind of, so what do you think about me kind of mode? Like, I want to share my astrology with you. What do you think? You're not saying it, but that's the energy that goes out. What do you think about you? Do you like it? Do you approve? We subconsciously, in order to gain strength in our own individuation process, we seek other people to affirm us. And when that positive response we are wanting and needing and longing for is withheld because people are not on the correct level of consciousness to be able to respond, you will be disappointed and you will feel probably as well that, oh, I'm weakened. Now I'm full of doubt. Now remember, both Taurus and Aries belong to what we call the first quadrant of the zodiac. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, right? Aries and then Taurus and then Gemini. All these 3 signs pertain to something extremely important for human beings, and it's the formation of the identity. It's still not formed. We're still looking for it. So there's a sense of insecurity that's probably not so obvious with Taurus, but Taurus is a sign that's very much related to being isolated. It needs to be alone to solidify its personal values. Whatever it found in Aries, it will solidify in Taurus. And for that, sometimes we need to cultivate a capacity to stay more in our own space, depending on who you are. Some people always do it alone, and maybe they need to open up a little bit. But most people, when we're in this individuation process, there's a long haul of being alone with everything, and it can be quite a challenge. It's like these 40 years in the desert that they've been talking so much about, right? It's like, when would it ever end, this being alone and, solidifying on the inside? because that's what it's all about, solidifying on the inside. Like when you know your core, nobody can shove you off the road. Sometimes I think of Taurus as the sacral center, which has its energy center underneath the navel, about yay far away from the navel. And this sacral center is very much related to stability. You know, like it keeps the hip energy stable. It keeps that part of the belly stable, that part which, you know, if you see these kung fu fighters and these people who come in with such a powerful energy, that's the source that they draw from. The deep points inside the stomach. They have some word for it. I was wondering, was it Tantien or Huyin? I cannot remember. It doesn't really matter. But the thing is, this is a very strong center of energy that provides stability to the rest of the body. And just think of that. I mean, that's very Taurian for me. If you think of the lower parts relating to the root and the adrenals, the root is connected to the adrenals, believe it or not, and it has to do with survival of the species. We're talking more Aries. Now, if we get to the sacral center, which is, yes, a lot of people will say, what about the neck? Taurus is related to the neck. Yes, it is. It's related to this too. But you see, our stability in the hara, in the sacral center, is a mirror of this. These two chakras belong together, as the root and the crown belongs together, and as the solar plexus and the heart operates as a pair. Third eye operates individually. It's not an energy center as the others, which is like more next level shit. I won't confuse you too much, but the sacral center is related to the throat, because when you sing, when you you come with this superpower that comes from the depths of your belly, right? And it comes from this part of the belly in particular. That's where the creative power is, and it's expressed through this chakra. So the area here, you know, sensuality, sexuality, love, 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 touchy, 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 I love me. That's part of the individuation process, of course, because you have to be super loyal to yourself. You have to be close to yourself. You have to have a core. And if you have that core power, that core energy, there's, you know, like nobody can shove you off the road. Nobody can scare you off the path. Nothing can distract you from your goals. And you have what it takes to get to where you're supposed to go, because you have that physical vitality as well. So it makes sense that these lower chakras are related to Taurus and Aries, for instance, and the first quadrant in particular, because it's related to that physical survival. And a lot of the things that we need to think and put into consideration when we are walking the path of self-realization is, one, who are we and how stable are we in our conviction of ourselves? Because two, the money's going to drive you crazy to begin with if you are not like those who are born with millions of dollars in their bank accounts, which is a great thing. God bless everyone. But most of us aren't. Most of us have regular lives and we have regular incomes, and, you know, we're in a situation where it's difficult to get to the next level, but we are yearning for it. And we need money. I wish it wasn't like that. Maybe something will change with the world of money as we go into Taurus, as Uranus moves further into Taurus, the monetary systems. This is something, you know, a lot of astrologers, including me, have been going into. Like, well, will we see like a new kind of currency? Will there be other, you know, type of monetary structures forming? Most likely, but for now we have money as part of our exchange. I give you this, you give me that. We're also, in a way, we already have this share economy that, like the barter kind of economy. It's just that the bartering is done with money, and there's a lot of crap related to that, like currencies and, the banks and shit like that. So, I mean, the bartering would be like, I give you 50 minutes of my time and I get 50 minutes of your time. That would be like the pure bartering. No interest rates on that one. And and no inflation on that one. Like it's just pure bartering. It's you give and you get equally back. Now that's going to be part of Uranus in Taurus, and it's probably also something, if you're in this particular phase in your life, you're moving into your own self, you're moving into your own power, the opportunities are presenting themselves, you are asked to go out of your comfort zone, and you're in these stages of individuation, which begins with that very seed of love and light for truth that's being ignited inside here, and like the awakening. And then after a while, this deep challenge of staying in the self, and then little by little life will start presenting through the synchronicities, all these little opportunities you get to actually go out into the world and be that which you've had, which you've seen, the vision that is Uranus. Now, if you're in this particular stage and money becomes something that you start struggling with, which is, a large part of the human worry is related to money. It's like, will I have enough? It's the instincts, of course. I think we've starved to death many times, right? And Taurus is related to not just riches, it's also related to poverty. So anything up here, you go around and you think, oh, will I have enough money to do this? It will trigger probably some old genetic memory, some old karmic memory of starving to death, of not having enough, of being in a place on an earth with all these billion people who always think that they need more, and being, remember, you're swamped into this, you're marinating in this consciousness. The collective field is always money. Imagine how much money they think about every day. So how can you prevent being dragged into it? Because you have to, in a way, be a little immune to those problems, unless you want to lie awake at night worrying. If you follow the path of truth in the beginning, as you are developing your talents and exploring who you really are, and before those talents, Taurus, before you are completely convinced. Taurus is the first earth sign, right? So that's the beginning of the development of the self-worth. It's like, yes, I can do this. And then you go to next earth sign. It's like Virgo. It's like, okay, but I have to be really super good with my skills. I have to develop my skills. Huh? And then you come to Capricorn, which we have a lot of stuff there. So you're mastering now. Good. Well, then you can chill. Then the earth trine is completed, and you can just lay back, and you can let the material realm be a friend. And Uranus and Taurus will definitely make the material realm your friend. Your resources, it's your friend, right? And trusting that, being able to just be stable in that, and just knowing that, okay, this is truly who I am. Then life cannot be against me. We think so. Like, we know that people go through struggles, right? It's not like we live on a planet where there's no struggles. There's so much struggle. And these monetary systems that we live under, it makes it really hard for us to individualize, which is the whole thing, that's we need somebody to drive the bus, of course. But when you are individuating, when you are on that path of reaching a higher potential, you have to accept one thing. Don't be afraid of money. I mean, you will be poor, but you won't starve. Maybe you will be poor. I don't know. Some people just go straight to it because they are so certain of who they are. They go straight to the top and they just start, hey, here I am. I'm the world best of everything. And you come to my store. Like they're like the best of best of best. And then they just glow this energy out. And it's like, no problem. You can just come to my store and you get what you want and you get what you need. And this is the kind of radiating self-confidence that is very hard to have unless you are really, really sure of who you are and what you have to offer. You cannot put a really realistic price on yourself until you know your true value. You know what you're worth. And in this individuating stage, there will be this period. It's just, it's a process. It's not something that's going to happen forever. But there will be this phase where you are exploring your potentials, where you are making probably some mistakes, you are learning a lot. And a little bit depending on your persona, of course, you will either go for it and you're like, bring it on, I'll take the challenges and I will just swoop through this and get it over with and then reach to the top. But if you're more sensitive, that might not be so easy for you, huh? If you're very, and if you have a lot of responsibilities, you cannot either do it like somebody who doesn't have kids, no mortgage. We did recently this Kepler thing, which was super interesting because we were talking about, the astrologer before me was talking about how she made it into the world of astrology. And one point, and it was such a good point, she said, well, I was lucky. I started before I had children. I started when I had no mortgage, when I had little economical obligation, when my mind was young. It's always an advantage. When you're young, you don't think, you just do it, right? Not to the extent you think when you have lived a life and you already had a career. That's much more difficult. Then everything is much more settled. But we have to change all life. We cannot just change and be open for change when we're young. There will be Uranus transits in your life also when you grow older, like Uranus square Uranus happens around 2021, 22. Uranus opposing Uranus happens at 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. We have these phases in our lives that are very Uranus driven, and it's good phases to actually exploit this potential, that you can get to the next level, or you can take these chances, or you can just don't think about the future, just go do it. Now if you are in a position where you have a lot of responsibility, or you have a lot of economical challenges, of course it's going to make it more difficult, but it doesn't mean it's unavailable. Now you have to be sure that you know what to put in the category of excuses and what you put in the category of realistic limitations. Huh? There, find two boxes. This is an excuse. This is just how it is. And if you can do that, it will be easier to find that point where you can actually get to the next level, where you can say, okay, all right, so I need 2 days a week where I just do my astrology, healing, whatever, art, like something that, like my community work or something, volunteer work or work for this cause or that cause, whatever it is that put your fire on fire. And then I need to do 3 work days where I just bring in enough money and la 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 la. Like you find these middle solutions. Now, if you are available for it and you can just go full in, remember, due to this individuation process, which is harder when you're younger, actually, that gets easier when you get older, because you have more wisdom and experience. When you're young, you have a lot of knowledge, of course, but, what is wisdom? Wisdom is knowledge plus experience. So there's an advantage in every age and a disadvantage in every age. And there are excuses in every age and, opportunities in every age. And this is what we need to learn to think if we want to get to the next level. That we create excuses due to I'm too old, I don't have enough money, I'm too insecure, I'm too sensitive. Like there's like a ton of excuses available for us at any given time. Now, those excuses are there to protect the fear of probably starvation. I will starve to death. I will not be able to take care of my bills. And it's a complete realistic fear. Because we know, and God forbid, it's happening all the time. People get tossed out of their houses. They don't do enough economical strengthening. They don't, credit cards, wasting time, wasting money. Uranus in Taurus will be a little hardcore with every one of us. How do we use our resources? Because time, for instance, like a talent is very dependent on how you use time. If you don't use your time to develop your talents, there's not going to be much happening on the outside, right? But if that sense of self is still so weak that, I don't know, is it worth it? I want it, but if there's too much but, you will not, there will not be enough momentum. There will not be enough energy to sustain the change. So therefore, these individuation processes that relates to Uranus are very, very difficult. It pulls us out of the known. It pulls us out of the known formula. Like normally you do it like this: A to B to Z to D. With Uranus, it's like A to Z, and then back to H. And we go over to F again, and then, oops, we landed in G. So it's like, it's erratic. It's not, you have to get used to the idea that the solutions you're looking for will not present themselves in formats you might expect. Like, that's not exactly how I saw it would happen, but now that it did, I'm glad that it did, because it's perfect. And it's this erratic kind of happening that is, that is Uranus. It's like, okay, so that's not a Saturnian sense of order. Like that's not Saturn. Like Saturn is like, it's rhythm. And then Uranus comes in, it breaks the rhythm. Crash, crash, crash. Whoop. Suddenly you're awake for 12 hours. Like, oh, why can't I sleep? Because your nervous system, your Uranus is going. You're overstimulated, which is super easy with Uranus. Huh? So if you're very strong with Uranus, you will have these erratic, like I started, I was a parent when I was 55, but a CEO when I was 20. It's like reverse from everyone else. So Uranus is really an interesting energy to work with, because it's not like the previous planet we discussed. It's completely opening you up to a metaphysical realm where we are preparing to see deeper laws in life. Like it's not always at first sight logical where you find the solutions, but due to this intuitive, it's that light bulb that just went off, like ka-ching. Oh my God, I just have to do it, man. Like I just have to do it, and I don't know why. It's like I get no guarantee, but just have to do it. It feels right, and that's really like one of the most beautiful aspects of life when we open up to this. If we really, deep inside of our hearts, want to trust life, we have to accept that. Okay. I have to trust change, and I have to trust death. I have to trust that whatever is taken away from me is not a loss. You know, the Uranian way of seeing change is like, oh, it's an opportunity given. It's freeing of time. It's freeing up something. And with Uranus in Taurus, what exactly is it that Uranus will open up? Well, it relates to a lot of your talents. So maybe you will have this, oh my God, I never knew I was this good at this. Now I know. And it's really good to know that you're good at something, right? Like that's embracing yourself. That's saying, pretty nice. I was given some nice talents. And then you understand these are the gifts, huh? And you're supposed to share them. And when you share them, you have to deal with the currency that is current on Earth. There's like no space for these puritanical attitudes because you just need food, man. And it's like, once it will maybe change, and most likely it will, because, you know, a lot of people don't like the money thing because of these evil bankers. And, you know, there's a lot of shit going down in the name of money. But we're on Earth, and Earth was always a place where a lot of shit went down, you know, slavery and stuff like that. It's always been the same. It's just taking new forms and shapes all the time, right? Not to undermine, you know, that, you know, we are those who are heralding the change, and maybe some of you are more into that economical, structural kind of work where your fire is related to, you know, creating, you know, like a new system of economy. And we will see probably as well, you know, a lot of these cryptocurrencies might get some momentum as Uranus goes into Taurus. They might also get a lot of resistance as they grow stronger. But you, for yourself, as we are just talking about your development right now, might go through a change in your relationship to money. And that reflects on not just money, you know, it's like much bigger than that. It's not just your relationship to money, it's your relationship to life itself. Can you accept fertility? Remember, Taurus is a sign of fertility. It's that green, lush garden that the farmer farms. Taurus is the farmer. It's like when you get to Aries, you get the little seed. Look, here's the seed, farmer. When the farmer gets the seed and he puts it into the soil and he says, now I will guard you. I will water you every day. I will come here and I will water you. And one day you will be a tree. And from that tree there will be fruit. And it depends on my skills as a farmer, how strong this tree will be and what great soil I put it into. So it's the principle of fertility, the whole creative process of guarding your garden. Making sure you take care of your resources. Don't squander your energy on wrong people. Use your time well, because it is the most important resource we have. Due to us living in this 3D dimensional thing, you know, we are still in time, even though parts of us are not in time. So we are still stuck in this time dimension. And you know, gardening your talents, taking care of your body, making sure you have enough vitality, accepting that you are special and you have great skills, being loved, feeling loved, supported. How do you get to that point of that high expression of Taurus, where Taurus energy expresses itself with parce que vous le valez bien, as they say, and they throw their hair, because you're worth it. Because you're worth it. And that's it, you know, that's why we associate this sign with all this sensuality and luxury and money, etc. But it's the whole spectrum, from that poverty, been hungry for, survived barely the Irish potato famine, and then moving into, I think I will treat myself to something special today, and not think about like tomorrow I'll be poor. It's much more difficult when there's not steady income coming in. But you give something to yourself to make you feel better, to make you feel valued and wonderful. And you just treat yourself with, maybe the investments that you need to do in order to get to the next level in terms of manifesting a life that is more valuable for you. Because it's your values, nobody else. And during 2018, we'll see Venus will go retrograde in the opposite sign, Scorpio, during the autumn months. And it relates back to that particular process of evaluating yourself and re-evaluating yourself and valuing yourself. What's your true worth? Who are you really? What's your light? In SoulFlow, we work on seeing the light. So something that some of you know my work as a SoulFlow therapist, and it's these archetypal meditations where we work with, let's say the inner. Well, let's say if it's Taurus, let's say the inner. Taurus could be a lot of things, but let's say just that capacity to enjoy life. The inner enjoyer. I'm a life art of living. If that capacity in you is broken somehow, we could work on SoulFlow through that. Like, your talents. Like, let's say we work with the talents, and then we purify the energy from illusion, like, that's what you think about yourself, interesting. And then after the purification, the light of this energy will shine very strongly. And then I just ask, so what's the color of this light? What's the color of your light? What is the color of your true light? And when we see that, we go, whoa, my energy is like that. That's the kind of gift I can give people. Is that the way that I can? Oh, now I see myself. So to understand your true value, you have to understand who you are and what you have to offer. I can be like a glass of champagne. This is my energy, like bubbly, bubbly. And it's super cool. When I saw that, I'm like, well, that must be valuable. I think people might like that, like that could lift something, that could inspire someone, that could give something to someone. And Taurus is the creative axis. It's a fixed sign. It relates to Leo, how you shine that light, and Scorpio, how you can keep continuing transforming and growing stronger in that light and not have these shadows with you when you go into the group, Aquarius, and you share that light in a neutral way with the rest of the people who also share their lights. But in Taurus, very much we find it. We find that particular essence that is us. So after the farmer has been standing there alone for so long, being only in the company of him or herself, he knows, this is me. And from that point, the tree can grow and bring fruits that you can harvest at a later point. So it's an interesting time we go into. Yeah, well, that's it. If there's any questions, please, you know where to find us. We're both at Facebook and we're on the forum on NPA. So, yeah, so see you around. Thank you.